Elden Ring has an incredible amount of big men and hooligans. Some of them are even reused from normal enemies or other rambunctious rapscallions. However, I think most players can agree that the best and most unique boss fights are the ones that give you a remembrance. So in this video, I am going to rank all of the boss fights that give you a remembrance. Truly, they are the biggest men of the big men. From a narrative sense, and also from a having a giant ball in your skull sense, Astel, Natural Born of the Void, is one of the more mysterious bosses. It comes just after the Lake of Rot, which is one of the most memorable zones in the game, mainly because of how accurately it depicts daily life in Australia, and naturally a creature like Astel is also an accurate rendition of Australian wildlife. Astel's head is a big skull with a big ball embedded in it. Skulls can either be scary or really badass. I think Astel's skull is badass. He's so cool. Astel is also space. Space can be very cool or very scary, just like Skulls and Chris Pratt.
What are you talking about? I think I may have hit you too hard back there. Sorry.
And Astel is a true embodiment of space. The design of its body evokes the appearance of many planets and stars, and sometimes it will shoot rocks at you, just like space. Astel is undeniably extraterrestrial, and there are hints that the arrival of its species potentially resulted in the destruction of the Eternal Cities. Therefore, its placement at the end of Ranni's massive questline results in a serene and breathtaking fight amongst the stars, as you reach the culmination of the journey that you have undertaken through the forgotten civilizations of the lands between. Also, his gravity attack where he lifts you up is funny. Astel is definitely a B tier fight. B for badass. Godrick the Grafted is one of the first demigods that most people will defeat. This is because he is really weak. All the other demigods bully him. Instead of training to become stronger, he just grafted limbs to himself, which made him this disgusting, fleshy amalgamation. If he wanted to be stronger, literally all he had to do was get a gym membership. He criticizes you for playing as a lord, when that just describes him. Everyone sees him as a joke. Godrick says that he is the lord of all that is golden, but when you look at him, he looks like the lord of all that is piss. In terms of his actual fight, he has some amazingly skillful moves, like rolling onto his enemy slowly, or screaming and cutting off his own arm. You get to witness a live grafting in real time. After he combines with the dragon, he gets some cooler moves, like a gender reveal party and drinking red cordial. It pretty much just makes his rolling faster. This move truly represents his character. He literally grafted the head of a dragon onto his arm and just uses it to roll faster. Absolutely pathetic. That's why I'm putting Godrick as solidly D tier. Godfrey's fight begins with him standing over his dead son, the same one that you murdered. Needless to say, it's a little bit awkward. Godfrey's fight is great. The animations on his attacks are really well done, and it's fun evading them. The fight gets better in the second phase. Godfrey murders the beast on his back because it was holding him back. This activates his shirtless mode. It follows the rules of the Yakuza games. Basically, if you take off your shirt, you become stronger and cooler. The animations in this phase of the fight are also really cool. They took the effort to showcase his bestial nature through his attacks. It does a great job of illustrating his savage nature as a barbarian, and contrasting it with how he changed when he became Elden Lord. He does have that one move where he yeets you. This move can be a little bit frustrating as it deals so much damage, but it's really funny, so it gets a pass. Hoarah Loux is S tier. The fire giant's fight is kind of cruel. You basically pull up on him and destroy the splint on his leg, exposing his wound to the cold, harsh winds of the mountains and allowing it to break under the weight of his body. This, of course, takes place after his entire species was destroyed by Radahn, so in the context of his entire life, it's cruel. With that said, he does seem to have a lot of fun rolling around, so it's not entirely sad. The giant rips off his own leg and lights it on fire in order to open his third eye. The second phase is great because if you are like me, you might not have noticed the massive face on his chest until the cutscene played. It's gotta be the goofiest design in the entire game. The goofiest looking guys always have the most tragic backstories. At least he still has some fun rolling around. The fire giant is solidly B tier. Dragonlord Placidusax has one of the most breathtaking arenas in the entire game. The process of getting there is pretty cool just by itself. You jump down onto a secret path and run across floating rubble right up to the base of the tornado. Naturally, you decide to sleep here. Through sleeping, you transport yourself back through time, all the way to Farum Azula, which is crumbling Farum Azula before it was crumbling. It's very spacious. The actual fight with Placidusax is really cool as well. A lot of the time you are just against his body and hitting him, but his attacks are well telegraphed through red lightning appearing on the ground or changes in his animation, so you are never in a situation where you get hit by an attack that you could never see coming, unless you get greedy. The design of Dragonlord Placidusax is also really cool. The boss fight starts with him sleeping, but as you get closer he wakes up, revealing that he has 2 heads. He used to have 3, and you can see the third neck on his body. The middle head also has a massive chunk taken out of it. Therefore, we can infer someone or something before us also beat the absolute life out of Placidusax. Poor guy. We know that Placidusax was an Elden Lord for a different god before the time of the Erd Tree and the Greater Will, so it's safe to assume that the Erd Tree supplanted that other god and beat the absolute crap out of Dragonlord Placidusax, cutting off his head in the process. Yes, that means Dragonlord Placidusax literally lost to a stationary tree. That's canon. It's in the lore. Dragonlord Placidusax is a great fight. It is solidly A tier. Morgott is one of the more disgusting bosses in the game. He uses the element of piss against you, and in his second phase he also utilizes dung. If you've ever been to the New York subway, you have probably already dealt with people like this. For this reason, I would say that Morgott is the easiest boss to visualize as a real life person. He seems like someone you could meet on the subway or on a street corner. Morgott also showcases the omnipresence of crackheads. You can actually meet him multiple times throughout the entire game. The first encounter is with Mohg, who is literally just his clone. This fight with Mohg is interesting because it exists to gatekeep you from Stormveil Castle and fighting Godrick the Grafted. I don't know about anyone else, but I find this fight to be harder than anything in Stormveil Castle. Morgott is only here to stop Tarnished early on in their journey to become Elden Lord, because he does not trust that Godrick would be able to defeat them. So Mohg being a harder fight is understandable from a narrative sense. It's also funny because he was right. The other time you meet Morgott is just on the side of the road. He just takes over some random guy in order to smoke you. Morgott is a really mean person. At least you get something for beating him here. Morgott is easily C tier. This is because he seems like a real person you could meet on the street. Just an average guy. Rykard has an interesting gimmick to his fight. You can use the weapon you find in his arena to do a special attack. This only activates during the fight. I never used it because it felt kind of bad, especially if you have no FP. Instead, on my first playthrough, I just waded through his lava and tanked the damage. It was really scuffed because I just spent most of the fight against his body and mashing R1. The second phase of the fight is cool because it's like the fire giant, as in, it turns out there was a hidden face on the guy the entire time. This has to be the best genre of Elden Ring boss. In the second phase, my awful strategy falls apart because he just jumps away from me. It basically just became a cartoon. The whole affair was really embarrassing for me, and I had to seek support from my therapist. Rykard is more disgusting than Morgott, so I have to rate him D D for disgusting. I really like Radagon's fight. I think it's really cool. Dodging his attacks is really fun. Even that delayed slam attack which catches everyone out at first. It's fun learning to dodge his entire moveset. The soundtrack is also great. The main theme of the game plays while you fight this amazing final boss. Well, Radagon would be an amazing final boss, but he isn't. Elden Beast is. I really do not like this guy. This so-called Elden Beast. He has a really cool arena and design, but that's about it. You basically just swing at his chest until he decides to swim away. Then you run all the way towards him, dodging some annoying attacks along the way. Sometimes these attacks can be downright despicable though. I always find it awkward judging when to jump over the piss ring attack. Running in a circle to dodge the piss attack is inconsistent, but it looks funny so it gets a pass. However, the worst part of this fight is easily a single move. It's that piss orb attack. I still don't think I even know how to dodge this attack. If you try and iframe through them, you usually end up getting hit by some of the droplets. If you try and run away, the attack just catches up with you anyway. On my first playthrough, I only managed to beat the boss on a run where this move didn't trigger once. It was great. I think that the Radagon fight is the most entertaining one in the game, but Radagon doesn't have a remembrance, so Elden Beast is the fight that I have to rank, and I really do not like it. It's definitely D tier. Out of all the remembrance fights, Radahn's fight is probably the most theatrical. It begins with an interesting segment where you get to converse with some NPCs and learn about Radahn's history. It paints him as this tough, badass warrior who has become a broken husk as a result of Malenia's scarlet rot. And so naturally you think, oh, so it's like a prepare to cry thing, like Artorias or something, but it really is not. His story is sad and moody, but when you begin the fight, you immediately get quickscoped. The fight with Radahn is one of the loudest and most hectic fights in the game. It begins with you running across the massive beach, dodging his attacks while you try to summon an army of body shields. Eventually you get close to him and the real chaos begins. When you use summons, you might have noticed how sometimes the boss will only target them. It's based on whoever hit the boss last, and it can allow you to get some free hits in. However, with Radahn there is a big difference. There are a lot of people attacking him, so he is constantly changing target, which can make his sweeping attacks wild and unpredictable. It's kind of like that one guy at a mosh pit. Radahn also has the best move in the game. I would have to rate Radahn as A tier. The arena is an amazing spectacle, but the sand will slip into your shoes and it's just really annoying. The Regal Ancestor Spirit is like the Ancestor Spirit, but if it was Regal. You access both of them in the same way. Just light some fires and then touch a dead animal. Like any budding serial killer. The fight with the Regal Ancestor Spirit is kind of simple. You just walk up to it and whack it. Eventually it will teleport away. Then you just walk up to it and whack it again. It's very fun and truly captures the feeling of Bam Bam from the Flintstones. This boss has the most pathetic move in the entire game. It basically just flies up and shoots at you before landing. The move is extremely slow and you will only get hit by it if you stand completely still. This so-called Regal Ancestor Spirit is so bad at the game. Therefore, I am ranking it B for bad. Maliketh's fight starts with him disguised as the Beast Clergyman, and I found this first phase to be really annoying. When people online complain about input reading in Elden Ring, I did not really understand what they meant until I fought the Beast Clergyman. Every time I would go in to attack him after dodging, he would throw some pocket sand in my face. Every single time. Now most good players would take this as a challenge. They would adapt and get better at the game. I did not. I just abused the Mimic tier. The second phase of the fight is a lot better. He completely forgets about the pocket sand, and it's great. However, he does hit you with that reduced max HP. You can use the Blasphemous Claw to parry his attacks, which is cool, but I never bothered, because I was always hiding behind my Mimic tier. Marika's dog is C tier. I really do not like his pocket sand. Rennala has the best intro cutscene in the entire game. . and it leads directly into the most offbeat fight in the entire game. You are forced to dodge an onslaught of books and fire, while a bunch of Rennala's deformed descendants sing creepy songs. At first you might think that Rennala is going to be the pinwheel of this game. Her fight has a gimmick to it and it is fairly easy. You just beat up her crippled offspring and then beat her up when she falls over in grief. This is something most people do daily, including myself. However, unlike in real life, this triggers a second phase of the boss fight. Even though this second phase is an illusion conjured by Ranni, it's still a really cool and authentic look at Rennala during the height of her power. This phase takes place on top of a really cool ocean, with a massive moon in the background. It's similar to some previous fights, but it avoids feeling contrived because Rennala is like moons and stuff. You know what I mean. She shoots moons. It's what she does. It's worth mentioning that she is the only Remembrance boss that actually survives your trail of death and destruction. She is kind of out of it though, and you can't really ask her any big questions, like where the nearest McDonald's is, but she does have enough of her mental faculties to perform advanced plastic surgery on you, so that's something I guess. Rennala is solidly S tier, because she can summon moons and throw them at you. It's something I would like to learn how to do one day. Lichdragon Fortissax is probably the most obscure boss in the entire game. Not only does it require you to make your way to Deeproot Depths, which is fairly hidden, you also need to partially complete Ranni's questline in order to get the item that lets you begin the fight. The arena it takes place in is really cool, as it allows you to get a good look at Godwyn the Golden, who is probably one of the more mysterious characters in Elden Ring's story. The fight itself is definitely a boss fight that exists. It has a health bar and you can deal damage to the boss. Fortissax likes to lean on that red lightning, like Placidusax, who is also a dragon. The arena is kind of purple, so I was hoping that maybe he could have been a dragon of the lean element instead. I feel like it is a massive missed opportunity. At the end of the day, I really cannot say much about Lichdragon Fortissax. The most interesting part of the fight is the small gank squad beforehand. It's basically Elden Ring's version of the PvP boss, like Old Monk or Looking Glass Knight. However, you just fight the builds of random online players, along with Sorcerer Roger and Pessy. So this means that Roger and Pessy are real people. Maybe they were trapped in the video game or something. It's honestly a really terrifying implication that more people need to talk about, because it means that Elden Ring is Sword Art Online, and that would be very bad, because Sword Art Online is very bad. I am ranking Lichdragon Fortissax as S tier because it confirms the stank-ass online theory. Malenia, she is Blade of Miquella. My favorite fights in From Software games tend to be the ones that are duels against someone who is just like you, rather than a big monster or a horde of enemies. Sekiro had a lot of these duel fights, and Malenia's fight is very similar to this style of battle. I think Malenia is one of the funnest fights in the entire game. She has a really cool moveset. Nearly all of her moves require you to be very specific with your dodge timing. She also has the gimmick where she heals every time she hits you, so you can't just stand there and block her attacks for the entire fight either. Therefore, it ends up feeling like a fast-paced fight from Bloodborne or Sekiro. However, there is one big thing I dislike about her fight. It's this single move, Waterfowl Dance. Now, waterfowl in real life might be cool. I'm sure there are plenty of waterfowl stands watching this video, but was anyone actually asking them to dance? I dislike this move so much because I feel it is the antithesis of what makes this fight so good. It's incredibly difficult to learn exactly how you need to dodge it without looking up a guide. Okay, so originally I had like this 30-minute long unhinged rant about this move because I really do not like it, but Miyazaki heard that I wasn't putting respect on his name, so he sent his goons round to my house, and they told me that if I did not delete my unhinged rant about Malenia, they would add an easy mode to Dark Souls for baby gamers just like me who can't even dodge one move. I tried to fight back by throwing a tactical chair at them, but they iframed through it, so in the end I had no choice but to delete my rant. If this move was not in the fight, it would easily be my favorite one in the entire game, but I could never figure out how to deal with this one move. So naturally, like a small child throwing a tantrum, I'm putting Malenia in D tier. Mohg is a guy who really likes blood. It's actually kind of weird how much he likes blood. His entire backyard is flooded with the stuff. Mohg himself has also done some really bad things, like kidnapping Mikola. You can fight him in two places. His fight in the sewer jail is the easier of the two, but he does use a similar moveset. However, the really interesting part of fighting Mohg only occurs in the Mohgwyn Palace fight. You can find an item called Mohg's Shackle in the sewer jail. This item can be used during both fights to immobilize him, so you can get a few free hits off on him. You can only use it twice for each fight though. However, if you plan it out, you can potentially destroy half of his health and get him into the second phase before he can even do anything. And this is where the cool part of the fight begins. He will then proceed to say nihil 3 times and then instantly kill you. That's it. You can't dodge it or block it. He just kills you. This might sound awful, but it's actually really cool. Not because I'm depressed or anything, but because it can be overcome in a unique way. In order to survive this move, you need to get the Purifying Crystal tier and put it into your drink, which will shield you from his attack. You can get this tier by absolutely destroying Yura's ex-girlfriend, Eleonora. It is such a cool meta element to the boss fight, requiring you to do something separate in a different area of the game. However, I think it was implemented poorly. There isn't really anything near Mohg's arena that indicates that you should go and fight Eleonora, and it's basically impossible for the average player to get past that attack without using the Purifying Crystal tier. So it's very easy to get stuck here. I would not be surprised if at some point the Purifying Crystal tier was intended to be found through a small quest line, and that this potentially got cut from the game. It's not hard to imagine that there could have been an NPC near Mohg's boss fight that could have pointed you in the direction of the tier, or maybe some kind of message, like with the gold mask puzzle. If the player could find the Purifying Crystal tier in a more organic manner, this fight could easily be great, but as it stands, I think it is C tier. Now that I have ranked every Remembrance boss fight, it's time to summarize the final tier list. I assume that all of the images in front of you make absolutely no sense, so let's go through them rank by rank. In D tier we have Godrick, Rykard, Elden Beast, and Malenia. In C tier we have Morgott, Maliketh, and Mohg. In B tier we have Astel, Fire Giant, and Regal Ancestor Spirit. In A tier we have Dragonlord Placidusax and Radahn. In S tier we have Hoarah Loux, Rennala, and Lichdragon Fortissax. If I had to pick a personal favorite fight, it would be Hoarah Loux. He's just so cool. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe to my channel. It would look great on your resume.